The crystal wine glasses clinked against the polished mahogany dining table as my brother Marcus raised his glass. "To another successful year at Sullivan Enterprises," he announced proudly. Who would have thought my little startup would become a chain of luxury boutiques? Everyone around the lavish Christmas dinner table cheered, my parents, my sister-in-law Jessica, even my elderly Aunt Marie, who usually dozed through family gatherings. Their eyes sparkled with pride as they gazed at Marcus, their golden child, their symbol of success. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, pushing my turkey around my plate. My small vintage clothing store, tucked away in a corner of Maple Valley Mall, felt worlds away from this display of wealth and status. "And what about you, Sarah?" My mother's voice cut through my thoughts. "Still running that, what do you call it? That second-hand shop?" "It's a vintage boutique, Mom," I corrected her quietly. "And yes, business is going well." Marcus let out a sharp laugh. "Well, come on, Sarah. Let's be honest here. You're selling used clothes in a dying mall while I'm opening my 4th luxury store in downtown Boston." "5th store," Jessica chimed in, adjusting her designer dress. "We just signed the lease for the new location on Newberry Street. The rent is astronomical, but Marcus says image is everything in luxury retail." My father nodded approvingly. "That's my boy. Always thinking big. Not like." He glanced at me, then quickly looked away, but his meaning was clear. Not like Sarah, the disappointment, the one who couldn't think beyond her little thrift store. "You know, Sarah," Marcus continued, swirling his expensive wine, "I could give you a job at one of my stores. Entry-level, of course, but at least it would be a real career. Better than wasting your time with that pathetic shop." I gripped my fork tighter, thinking about the documents sitting in my home office. Documents that would wipe the smug smile off my brother's face. But now wasn't the time. Everything had to play out perfectly. "I'm happy with my shop," I said simply. "Happy?" Marcus scoffed. "You're barely making rent in a mall that's one health code violation away from being condemned. Meanwhile, I'm making 7 figures a year. That's not happiness, Sarah. That's settling." My mother reached across the table to pat my hand. "We just worry about you, dear. You're 32 now. Don't you think it's time to do something meaningful with your life?" Meaningful? Like Marcus's overpriced boutiques selling designer clothes made in sweatshops? Like Jessica's charity galas that were more about showing off her latest jewelry than helping people? "My work is meaningful to me," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "My customers appreciate what I do." "Customers?" Marcus snorted. "You mean the 3 old ladies who come in looking for vintage scarves? Face it, Sarah. Your shop is a joke. The whole mall is a joke. I heard they're planning to renovate it soon anyway. Probably tear the whole thing down." I took a slow sip of water, hiding my smile. "Oh, Marcus, if only you knew." "Speaking of the mall," Jessica added, her voice dripping with false sympathy, "I drove past it yesterday. Looks absolutely dreadful. Those empty storefronts, that cracking facade. I can't believe you're still there. It's embarrassing, really." My father cleared his throat. "You know, Sarah, I still have connections at Morton Financial. I could make a call, get you an interview for an administrative position." "Thank you, Dad, but I'm fine where I am." "Fine." Marcus slammed his glass down. "Look at yourself. You drive a 10-year-old car, you live in that tiny apartment, you work in a dead-end mall. That's not fine, that's failure." The table fell silent. Even Jessica looked uncomfortable. "Marcus," my mother said weakly, "it's Christmas." But Marcus wasn't finished. He stood up, pointing his finger at me. "You want to know what real success looks like? Look at my life. Look at my stores. That's success. What you're doing, that's just hiding. Hiding because you're too scared to compete in the real world." I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I should go." "Yes, run away," Marcus sneered. "Go back to your little shop and pretend you're a real business owner. Meanwhile, I'll be signing the lease on my 5th luxury store." As I walked to the door, I heard Jessica's stage whisper. "I heard the mall's getting new management. They'll probably kick all the old stores out anyway. It's about time they cleaned that place up." I turned back one last time. "You know what they say about assumptions, Marcus? They can be dangerous." He laughed. "Is that a threat? From someone who can't even afford a new car? Please." I drove home that night in my deliberately modest Toyota, smiling as I thought about the papers waiting on my desk. Marcus was right about one thing: the mall was getting new management. What he didn't know was who that new management was. In my penthouse apartment, the one my family had no idea existed, I poured myself a glass of wine that cost more than Marcus's entire dinner spread and opened my laptop. An email from my lawyer was waiting. All paperwork is complete. The acquisition of Maple Valley Mall is finalized. Renovation notices can be sent out immediately. Perfect timing. I picked up my phone and dialed my property management firm. Begin the eviction process for Sullivan Enterprises, I instructed. Priority mail, delivery tomorrow morning. Marcus always said timing was everything in business. I couldn't agree more. As I stood by my floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the city lights, I thought about the journey that had led to this moment. 10 years ago, when I opened my vintage shop, everyone thought I was crazy. What they didn't know was that while I was selling vintage clothes, I was also studying the real estate market, watching property values and making strategic investments. Every snide comment, every dismissive glance, every patronizing offer of help, I filed them all away, using them as fuel. While Marcus was flaunting his success, I was quietly building an empire. My little shop was just the beginning. Now I own not just the mall but half the commercial properties in the downtown area. All through shell companies and holding corporations, of course. No one in my family had any idea that the failing daughter was actually one of the largest property owners in the state. Tomorrow they would begin to understand. But not all at once. No, this revelation needed to be handled delicately, precisely. Like the vintage pieces in my shop, timing and presentation were everything. I picked up my phone again and typed out a message to my assistant. Make sure Sullivan Enterprises eviction notice is delivered first thing tomorrow morning. Nema. Make sure my name is clearly visible on all the paperwork. Then I sat back, sipped my wine and waited for the chaos to begin. The next morning I arrived at my shop early, knowing I didn't want to miss what was about to unfold. I was brewing my morning coffee when I heard the distinctive click of Jessica's designer heels storming down the mall corridor. The mall's security cameras gave me a perfect view of Jessica bursting into Marcus's flagship store, her face flushed with panic. Through my shop's open door, I could hear their heated conversation echoing down the corridor. Marcus, you need to see this right now. I watched on my tablet as my brother emerged from his back office, still wearing that superior smile. What is it, honey? Did they finally shut down that coffee shop that was competing with our cafe? Jessica thrust the papers at him. No, look at this. We're being evicted. All of us. The smile vanished from Marcus's face as he snatched the documents. What? This is ridiculous. There must be some mistake. I stepped out of my shop, timing my entrance perfectly. No mistake, Marcus. The mall has new ownership. All current leases are being terminated for renovation. Marcus's head snapped up, his face reddening. Did you know about this? Of course, I said calmly, walking closer. I know everything that happens in my mall. There was a moment of absolute silence. Jessica's perfectly manicured hand flew to her mouth. Marcus stared at me, then back at the papers, his eyes finally landing on the signature line. Sarah Montgomery, he read slowly, his voice barely a whisper. Owner and CEO, Montgomery Real Estate Holdings. That's right. I smiled, remembering all the times he'd mocked my little shop. Surprised, Jessica grabbed the papers from Marcus's trembling hands. This is impossible. You can't even afford a new car. I laughed. Oh, Jessica. I could buy a fleet of luxury cars if I wanted to. I choose to drive my Toyota because it's practical. Just like I chose to keep my success quiet while I built my empire. Empire. Marcus spat the word. What empire? I pulled out my phone and pulled up a familiar website, the one for my real estate company. Montgomery Real Estate Holdings owns not just this mall, but 40 other commercial properties across 3 states. That astronomical rent you're paying for your new store on Newberry Street? You're paying it to me. Marcus staggered back, grabbing the counter for support. No, this has to be a mistake. You run a second-hand clothing store. A vintage boutique, I corrected him. And yes, I do. It was my first business and I love it. But while you were busy showing off your success, I was quietly building something bigger. Something that will last. But all those times we made fun of you. Jessica's voice trailed off. All those times you mocked my shop? Belittled my choices? Questioned my success? I nodded. I remember every single one. They made for excellent motivation. Marcus finally found his voice again. You can't evict us. We have rights. Actually, I can. You see, I had my lawyers review your lease agreements. You're 3 months behind on utility payments, you've violated several maintenance clauses and your latest health inspection. Well, let's just say it wasn't exactly glowing. Those are technicalities, he shouted. Technicalities matter in business, Marcus. Isn't that what you always said? I pulled out another document from my bag. By the way, here's a copy of the complaint filed by your workers about unpaid overtime. Apparently, success doesn't extend to paying your employees properly. Jessica's face had gone pale. Marcus? What is she talking about? I turned to her. Oh, didn't you know? Your husband's successful business has been cutting corners for years. Unpaid overtime, unauthorized deductions from paychecks, unsafe working conditions. It's amazing what people will tell you when you're just the owner of a pathetic shop they can confide in. By now, a small crowd had gathered, other shop owners, mall employees, even some early morning customers. Many of them were nodding, having experienced Marcus's arrogance firsthand. You have 30 days to vacate, I continued. Don't worry about breaking your lease. I'm feeling generous enough to waive the penalties. Consider it a Christmas gift. Marcus lunged forward, his face purple with rage. You planned this. You've been planning this all along. Planning? No, Marcus. I've been working, building, succeeding. You were just too busy bragging about your own success to notice. Just then my phone buzzed, a message from my lawyer. I smiled as I read it. Oh, and one more thing. Remember that new location on Newberry Street? The lease you were so proud of signing? The property owner just reviewed your financial records and decided to exercise their right to refuse high-risk tenants. What? Marcus whispered. The property owner, which is me by the way, feels that a business with multiple labor violations and irregular payment history is too risky. The lease has been denied. Jessica sank into a nearby chair, her designer dress crumpling. All our plans, the expansion, the investors. Maybe you should have spent less time mocking others and more time managing your business properly, I suggested. Marcus made one last desperate attempt. Mom and Dad won't let you do this to me. They'll dash. They'll what? I cut him off. Try to guilt me into backing down? Remind me about family loyalty? The same loyalty you showed me all these years. As if on cue, my phone rang, our mother's number flashing on the screen. I put it on speaker. Sarah. Mom's voice was frantic. What is this I'm hearing about you evicting your brother? How could you do this to family? I looked directly at Marcus as I replied, the same way you all did it to me. One small cruelty at a time. But he's your brother. And that store is his life. My shop was my life, Mom. But none of you cared about that. None of you respected my choices or supported my dreams. You were all too busy worshipping Marcus's success to notice mine. That's different, she protested. No, it's not. The only difference is that I succeeded despite your lack of support, not because of your endless advantages. I hung up, turning back to Marcus and Jessica. The eviction notice stands. 30 days. And Marcus? The next time you want to mock someone's pathetic shop, make sure you know who really owns the building. As I walked back to my store, Jessica called out, Wait, what's going to happen to the mall? I paused, looking back at them. Oh, it's getting renovated all right. Into an upscale vintage and artisanal marketplace. My pathetic shop will be the flagship store. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, it's succeeding so spectacularly that they destroy themselves. Over the next month, I watched as Marcus and Jessica packed up their store, their perfect image crumbling day by day. The news of their labor violations had spread, and their wealthy clientele quickly distanced themselves. It turned out success built on arrogance and exploitation wasn't as solid as they thought. My parents made several attempts to intervene, alternating between guilt trips and threats. I responded by sending them a detailed portfolio of my real estate holdings along with a note. While you were busy being proud of Marcus, I was building this. Maybe next time, don't be so quick to judge what success looks like. 6 months later, the renovated Maple Valley Marketplace opened to rave reviews. My vintage boutique, now expanded and showcasing carefully curated pieces, became a destination for collectors and fashion enthusiasts from across the country. The artisanal shops I'd personally selected as tenants created a vibrant, unique shopping experience that drew people from miles around. Marcus's former store? I turned it into a community space where local designers and artists could showcase their work. A place where success wasn't measured by how much you could brag, but by how much you could contribute. Last I heard, Marcus had taken a middle management position at a department store in another state. Jessica filed for divorce when she discovered just how deep his financial mismanagement went. And my parents? They finally had to acknowledge that their failing daughter had built something remarkable. Sometimes I walk through my marketplace, remembering all the snide comments and dismissive remarks that fueled my determination. Success, I've learned, isn't about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. And sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold, it's served with a real estate portfolio and an eviction notice. The vintage brooch I'm wearing today? It's worth more than Marcus's entire store inventory. But I don't need to tell anyone that. True success, after all, speaks for itself.